Good evening and welcome to the Tipton Community School Corporation School Board Public Work Session. This evening, I'd like to call it to order. This evening, we have a presentation with Church, Hill, and Antrim on our just board policy program that we're going to discuss. So this time, I would love to invite you to the microphone. We have with us our attorney, Andrew Manna.
All right, good evening. I'm going to have Julia as my law partner co-present with me here and get into a little bit more detail in just a second. Good evening and good to see you all. We don't come very often from our law office, but we like to come visit. And this policy service that our law firm has is really kind of separate and distinct from the routine day-to-day operations of legal advice. We noticed a few years ago with many of the school districts that we work with, you have, or other school districts that we work with have a policy service. Dr. Blaze, you have the clicker?
I do.
I'll let you go. So I'll go to the next one. What we found is that, a thick set of policies from different service providers that sometimes repeats what's already in Indiana code and then puts it in there again for an extra policy is a little bit of duplication. So 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, we started developing our own unique indexing and set of policies that's more streamlined to kind of distill those policies down. And we found that sort of removing that duplication, also making sure it's specific to Indiana. Sometimes what we found is that if it's not specific to Indiana and if it's used by a national organization, it doesn't necessarily apply to your school district. And then utilizing the administrative guidelines and forms and procedures that, as your legal general counsel, that we've also vetted and supported and feel comfortable advising. So that's a little bit, I'll stop there as Julia also comes with me to talk a little bit about the procedures. But that's the philosophy background and where we came to develop a policy service that's, again, a little bit of a separate package than what we have as your legal counsel. Let you go to the next one. If you could talk a little bit about how it's set up and the process, and I'll come back up in just a second.
Thank you again for letting us join you this evening. I had the privilege of serving on Noblesville School Board for a dozen years, so I've spent a lot of time in your shoes looking at policies, and periodically they'll come through and go, well, why are we talking about this policy? I feel like we just passed that 2 months ago. Well, other policy services divide out some categories into different types of employees, so you'll see the same policy 3 times. One of the things I've enjoyed about the CCHA policies is we consolidate all those employee things into administration and personnel, like you see. So we break it down into basic commitments. That'll be things like your anti-discrimination policy, your anti-nepotism policy, conflicts of interest, those kinds of things that everyone has to have. Governance is really how your school board operates. Students, there are a lot of policies that you are required to have for your students. Administration personnel, that's just what you would think for your HR requirements. Instruction is those curricular issues that you need to have policies about, how you adopt curriculum. Some library policies that you might want to talk about, that would go in that section. Fiscal management is pretty self-explanatory, operations and facilities, and then community relations, how you work with the public, with parents, with folks who come to speak at your board meetings. And rather than the 300 plus policies in your current policy pack, we have just under 100. So it's really worked to condense it so you have a better sense as board members of what it is that's out there. We don't expect you to know all of your policies, but certainly you'll have a better sense of what it is that you are adopting and expecting your administration to enforce. So how we do this? Well, one, are there questions about that basic philosophy of how we break it down? Okay.
Can I just
Sure,
ask,
sure.
just kind of putting into practice what you're saying? Like right now, if you look at our policy book, we have duplicate policies that start with like PO for policy and then AG for administrative guideline that are completely the same. So that when we're going through and we're reading them ourselves, each time that we adopt a chunk, we are reading two policies that are exactly identical.
Right.
And so what you're saying is that they're consolidated into one number. You've assigned a unique number to it or name
So we do still break it down between policies, which are intended to be the big picture philosophy. Sometimes the law requires the board to adopt a policy. Other times, the administrative guidelines are really the directions on how the administration is supposed to bring it all into play and enforce what the policies are. So the guidelines are intended to be more of a roadmap. They should not mirror each other exactly. Ours don't. Sometimes they'll have some similar language, and then the guideline will go into deeper explanation on here's how you actually do this. So if it's seclusion and restraint of a student, it'll talk about all of those things and not just we have policies that guide this. So
The anti-harassment example, employee student, that's a good one.
well, so our anti-discrimination, that policy actually has a lot of language that is required by statute. So that one, the policy is pretty in-depth, but then because the policy is in-depth, you don't need a lot of guidelines. You'll have some forms that'll go along with it to explain, but you won't have, there's not nearly as much duplication between policy and guideline, which is what you have right now. So.
Thank you.
And typically, the guidelines are adopted by your administration, so you should only be adopting policies. You don't need to be, although it's good to know what your guidelines are. So, all right, so should you decide to move forward with shifting from your existing policies to our CCHA policy pack, we have 3 initial phases. So the first phase is we'll work with your administration and whoever on your board is working on policy. Typically don't recommend that you all do it. I'd say a subcommittee and then you'll bring it to the rest of the board. But we'll work on a calendar together to think through how we want to do it. We typically do 8 or 9 policies a month, so it'll take about 10 months to go through the whole stack. You'll get the corresponding guidelines and forms with them for the administration to adopt, assuming you adopt the policy. We will go through and explain, so if we're giving you our A100 anti-discrimination policy, we'll tell you this will allow you to delete these policies in Neola, and that'll be on a slide in a minute, so I won't try to quote them. Sometime, of course, you're no longer required to have discussion, but some corporations still like to have those conversations as good interaction and communication. So we continue to identify policies that would have required discussion. And we can talk monthly, we can email. We typically put it into a shared drive in OneDrive so that if you want to make edits and put a comment at Julia, please explain. We can work it that way. So as you have questions or are working through it, we can continue to dialogue. And then at the end, we'll go through all of the policies you have left that haven't been deleted, because there are some current policies out there that we don't think you need a policy at all. You should put it in your handbook. You might want a guideline, or maybe you do want to keep it because it's special to Tipton, and then we'll write a new policy just for Tipton. So that's that process. Here's kind of a sample calendar. I just have January, February, March because that's the start of the year. You don't have to start in January, but this would show you some of the policies that we would send to you. So, anti-harassment, nepotism, whistleblower, and the letter and number correspond back to A is those general policies, C is students, D is personnel administration. So that letter corresponds to that general category, and then we generally number 100, 125, 150. Occasionally we'll slide a couple. Unpaid meal policy checklist. That's not entirely a policy, but it goes along with some of your wellness. So
Erica's particular interest in that.
there you go. We want to make sure
You guys particularly enjoy the unpaid meal policy.
unpaid meals. We love it. We want our children fed. So, but yeah, so we would send you a list that looks like this each month. And if there are things, if you look at the whole list of policies, and we'll give you a spreadsheet of the full list at the beginning. So if you're like, we really need to talk right now about school-sponsored publications, we can put that up in the first batch. But if you don't have any particular preferences, then we'll just kind of go through and an assortment that seems appropriate. We'll go ahead. And then you'll get an email that looks a lot like this. Here is a batch. And you'll see that we highlight in red the policies that you currently have that we can delete. if we have any extra comments about it. This was sent out much earlier this year, so it's saying the 2020 regs were still in effect. 2024 has been enjoined. Pretty sure at this point we're going to stay in 2020. So that policy will not be as amended as it might have been otherwise. And you'll see with that A100, there's an E, which is form. And that just, so even though we have this huge non-discrimination policy, we only have one form, which is the complaint form. So you're not duplicating between the policy and the guideline. Similarly, nepotism, there's an administrative guideline specific to staff conflicts, but the broader policy speaks to all kinds of conflicts. So, and then phase 4 is kind of that cleanup phase. So we get to the end. Go ahead, click.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. And after we've done the full transition, then once or twice a year, we'll send out updates, particularly in the spring after the General Assembly has finished its work. There's always changes to our policies, and so we'll send you updates related to those changes. We can also, if you want to go through and do a revision of your student handbook or employee handbook, I mean, you might feel comfortable handling all of those changes or making it align, or if you'd like us to help, we're happy to help. All
I
right,
think we've typically had to.
and we're happy to review. So that is the general process of how it goes, and now I'll let Andrew do the heavy lifting.
We were drawing straws who had to present about the cost. So, so as I mentioned, this is a separate part of, we're happy to continue to just be your general attorneys. And if you decide you don't want to pursue that, that's no problem at all. A couple of different options for the policy service is the flat fee of $20,000 over phases. Could be installments, and that is looking at our regular hourly rate on the phase 4 that Julia just mentioned on the update. Some people have done option 2, and I think that's a little bit more though, where we've come in and just helped surgically sort of look at certain policies, right? So there's that option, which I want to make sure you're aware of as well. If you're just not completely happy with certain ones and you just want us to come sort of spot check and, look over your shoulder as you do the review or give feedback, we could do that as well. For the most part, we are starting to see people move towards, the ones that have signed up with our policy service to do option 1, because you can just start fresh and break, pull off the Band-Aid and get that done in that new year. So those are the options. And let me see if there's another slide. I don't know if there is. No. So that's the quick version. Maybe you had a little bit of sense of that, but we wanted to make sure we walked through it for you and answered any questions that we could answer.
I guess my question is, let's say we switched to you and we started January 1 like this. So would we roll with the policies in place as you did? Because there's like a phasing, so
There is.
will they not take effect until the whole thing is finished and we'll be under the old? If
So
could
you
explain
go,
that.
yeah, I just thought I should probably add that slide back, or add a slide talking about that. But, so as you adopt the new policies come into effect, all of the old policies stay in effect until, so if you adopt the anti-harassment, go forward one more. So the month you adopt policy A100, you would, at the same time, delete policy 2266 from the book.
Okay.
So we
So
would
that would
phase
roll.
through. Yeah,
So
we
we'd
would
be under the old policy
Yeah.
and then it would just,
that whole year is kind of a transition phase where they're both there, and probably for Dawn's benefit, they're both on your website. So there's a lot of add and delete over the course of the year.
so to Rob, Amber can't resign. Amber's the one that reads all this for us. That's who Rob and I call, we're like,
There you go.
The other piece I like here that Julia and another one of our law partners are really mastered with this. You see these suggestions. For example, this is optional. This policy is optional. This one is required. They point that out for you, so you have a little bit of pre-teaching or pre-reading there on what's required and what's not.
But you can see how many policies you're deleting to trade for just one.
okay.
How old is this offering from the firm?
So we've been doing the policy project probably 2019, 2020 is when we rolled it out, but we continue to update them. So they're all current law, but
Okay.
we've been doing this. We probably have had, 35, 40 school corporations transition already.
Okay.
In the last couple of years, we've been able to make it a little more streamlined and cost effective. As where back in 5 or 6 years ago, we just have the bulk of policy down, and now it seems last couple of years, more schools have been able to take on.
And then the 20,000 is year one. Year two, the policies are enacted, and then it's what, a straight?
It's
Pay
an
by the
hourly
hour.
rate, and a lot of that, if we're doing the updates, we're doing that for all of our clients, so it's not a totally, it's not me doing 10 hours of work just for Tipton, it's me doing 10 hours work for our team for several clients, so it's reduced, averaging bills, maybe $2,000 for those update years.
So if I'm understanding it correctly, legislation passes, they're out of there in March or May.
We'll be
You
sending it to
revise,
you.
you revise for all the school corporations, and then you issue us a bill for
Your
that
share.
lift, right? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
And one thing I will say, it takes our current vendor a period of time to get that information out. I know that, because there have been a couple that I've asked you for, because I just didn't feel like we were going to get it in a very timely manner. And so that is one thing about local in Indiana, we are able to get those updates a lot sooner.
And I went to that point, Dr. Blaze, I want to, make sure I emphasize, as your general counsel, we will still do that. I mean, if you decide to stay where you're at, and there is a certain policy that we have, we will get that for you. It's just that it'll be then mixed with your current set. So, I mean, we're happy to do that as changes come, if you decide to stay where you're at.
Anything else we can answer?
Thank you so much for coming tonight. I really appreciate it, for explaining that to us. Thank you. Okay, at this time, we're going to talk about the high school executive plan for roofing system. Dr. Glaze is going to present that.
I sent out, I think about 2 weeks ago, just kind of the plan. I had mentioned to you before that we were having a vendor come out at Moisture Management and do an assessment of our roofs. They've done borings of our current roofs to determine, how many roofs are currently on different structures within the high school, and just to determine where the roofs are as far as their lifespan and really where what their recommendation would be as far as a timeline for replacement and such. So they did this back in October, and Dan was here as well, so he was able to assist with that and make sure that they have located the roofs that we have concerns about, but they've essentially assessed every single high school roof. So the results of this is, so we have about 45% of our roofs that are really brand new. We've replaced a couple of those roof systems in the building project. But there are some roof systems that are older that we need to consider. We've already had the conversation last summer about the roof for the Inferno, and essentially, kind of where that particular roof is. And so on a basic percentage, they're looking at, 45% of our roofs are essentially in perfect condition. 47, probably they have it under replace immediately. It's not emergency replacement, so we can at least take a little bit of a breath there. And then they also have some that should be replaced, but we could delay those if necessary. So overall, this is basically all of that information under a map of the high school. So ironically, our oldest roof is this one right here. But it is not considered to be our worst roof, which is very intriguing to me. This is again, kind of an old system, but it was installed right. This would be the Inferno. This would be the academic area for the high school. So the two-story part of the building. And then this is the auditorium and the area around the auditorium. As you can tell, these roofs have been replaced within the last, these two in the last year, this one about 3 years ago, and these were about 5 years ago. So we've had some, been able to do some updates with these roofing projects, but currently we have these that likely need to have some attention. One thing that moisture management did was really kind of create a framework for 3 years. So if we wanted to approach this over 3 years, this would be their recommendation on how to proceed. Oops, sorry, go back here. So this area, which is the auditorium and the areas around the auditorium, band room, choir room, art room, different rooms like that, and then also the breezeway. They would recommend that would be the area we would do as our first attention. Okay. The next level would be the academic wing. The Inferno, we did pay for some temporary fixes for the Inferno, so it's made it not a lot better, but it's made it somewhat better as far as that roof condition. So we would be able to delay that one a bit. And then this would be the last phase, 3 years out again with these systems. Part of the process is we do like to have a slope on the roof. Obviously, most schools are built with flat roofs, but under the systems, we do like to have some slope to them, particularly so they can drain correctly and not puddle. Like the moisture management people say, even if you're puddling, water or whatever on the roof system, that doesn't mean necessarily the roof system is bad, but it does mean there's a higher potential for a leak in that situation. The next page, and I went ahead and printed out a large copy of this because I thought it might be more difficult to read. So you're welcome to take a look at that. Again, this is something that you had the opportunity to take a look at. They do have the 3-year phasing part of this outlined in here, specifically what the roof is, where it's located, as far as its condition, and also each annually what the cost would be for those repairs. And then we have, of course, a grand total that would be all encompassing for all 3 years. So the overview basically for year one would be $929,000. For year two would be $1.5 million. For year three would be $775,000 for a grand total of $3.25 million. Now, the one thing that this is the absolute worst possible scenario for this. So anything that they think would need, that once they get into the process, there's a lot of contingencies built into this. They have included that in the $3.2 million. So when and if it would go to bid, we would expect, if we did it all at one time, there would be a likely reduction of around $600,000 off of this, just because we're not having people come in 3 different times. The other part of it is with these taller roof systems, they will have to rent a crane for those different roofs because of the height of the facilities. So there are also some costs in there where we may be able to, create some efficiencies if we did do it all at one time. And the bid is based on a complete tear down to the deck on all systems. What they found in their analysis is not all of the roofs, we can put a roof system on top of a couple of the roof systems that would save us some dollars because, obviously the tear off is expensive, really more so due to labor, than anything else. So, tear off is expensive, but we may be able to, again, bring that price down, by not taking all the roofs down to the deck. Again, as I mentioned before, this takes into consideration kind of the worst possible conditions and costs. And so, again, we wouldn't know until we went out and did it exactly where we're at. But this should give us kind of an idea of where we are, within that worst possible scenario. Any questions on that?
This is just the high school?
Yes.
The elementary and the middle school are
Good.
good.
Yes. Yeah, they've all been replaced within, the last 10 years. So we're in really good shape. Those roof systems will last, 20 to 30, depending on how well they're maintained. So, I feel like we're in good shape. These systems, again, they're working. I mean, we don't have, terrible leaks everywhere every time it rains. We do have some leaks, but we end up, patching them and repairing them. So, the roofs that we have are doing what they need to do as long as we keep them repaired.
Wasn't here for all of this back when, but when all this construction started, did we have the roofs evaluated back then?
We did, and we actually grabbed the roof, the roof systems that were in the worst condition and the oldest condition, and we replaced those. So, that was part of it. When we started with this process with the building project, it was, made pretty clear that we didn't want to spend a lot on roofs, but we did want to spend a lot on, basic updates within the building.
So we knew this was coming.
Yes.
Are there any other questions? Okay. At this time, does anyone have any questions about the agenda? Okay, and then comments from the community?
We
See that-
have one.
We have one, Mrs. Sutton. Welcome to your microphone. That's right.
I didn't have time. I missed the deadline to sign up to speak at the regular meeting, so I'm just gonna do it right now. I noticed on the agenda at the next meeting, it was talking about the survey presentation, and I'm assuming it was the one that was addressed in the newsletter regarding Epstein's 6 types of like parental involvement or community involvement kind of things. And so I'm assuming during the presentation, there'll be more information shared. I didn't see it anywhere on the website, so I can't ask questions. So I just did some research myself. And I approach this with like trepidation because, the 6 types they're looking at are positive home conditions, communications, involvement at school, home learning activities, shared decision-making within the school, and community partnership, which I'm totally in support of. But some of the programs that that are listed that they engage in are evaluating like family support programs to assist with health, nutrition, other services. Some do home visits at transition points between like preschool, elementary, middle, and high school. And I just kind of hearkened back to that about 2 years ago when we did that whole behavioral assessment thing. And there were some questions that were asked of our kids on there that were concerning, and I know was pointed out at the meeting, and was kind of a one and done, and we didn't do it again kind of thing. So I just really want to know, is that like the road we're going down? Are we going to now get into like home visits? I mean, what does this look like? And I know some of the measures that are used just looks at like extracurricular involvement. And there's a lot of thrust on sports and things. And I think we do a good job of sports here, but there's a lot of kids that don't, but yet do other things outside of the community that don't have anything to do with playing a sport here. And I don't know how that's captured. And it looks like they send this to the parents, administration, and students from grades 4 to 12. And what do the answers look like when a 10-year-old's answering it? You know, when questions on there are about, from what I've read, parental types, learning at home, I have concerns that it kind of blurs the line between the school and the home. And I have angst because I'm feeling like, you know, we can generally present this, but yet seeing what other schools and stuff have done with this, I just think it's a bridge too far. So I don't know if it's mandatory, if it's strongly encouraged or what, or, you know, I mean, can we opt out? Do we have to answer this? Is it mandatory? I just have some really major concerns. I know I'm dinged.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you, Laura. I hope you can learn during our presentation. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me or we can talk. Thank you. Okay, at this time, we will adjourn from our work session and resume with our regular board meeting at 6:30. I would like to welcome everyone to the Tipton Community School Corporation School Board meeting. This time I will call our meeting to order and just would like to welcome you. Thank you for everyone who's come out this evening. We'll begin with our Pledge of Allegiance and reciting our vision statement, and Amber Rodabaugh will lead us this evening. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the vision statement?
Growing empowered, future-ready students who are prepared for a lifetime of opportunity and success. Okay, this evening our agenda looks a little bit different because tonight we have an appointment of a new school board member. The board received 7 applications for the vacant school board seat and interviewed 6 applicants in an open meeting on Wednesday, November 6th. The board would like to thank all the applicants for their time and consideration to serve on this role. The board would like to recommend Tamara Brown for appointment to the school board for the remaining term of Jason Springer ending December 31st, 2026. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Okay, at this time, I would like to invite Julia Kozicki, right, good, from Church, Hiddle, and Antrim, and she's going to administer the oath of office to our new school board member. Tammy, would you please come forward as well?
My pleasure as an officer of the court to swear you in. I'll ask you to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America, the Constitution of the State of Indiana, and the laws of the United States and of the State of Indiana. I will faithfully execute the duties of my office as a member of this governing board. So help me God. Congratulations.
Tammy, at this time, we'd love for you to take a seat with us up here. We're really excited for you to serve on our team and she comes with a wealth of experience and just, I think, a lot of influence that will really be great for our school. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, at this time, one of the things we really enjoy doing as a school board is to take a minute and just talk about some of the good things that our corporation is doing. So at this time, if you can tell me something good that you have seen in our schools.
Last Friday, there was a career fair that was held across the street. And I really just want to take a moment to acknowledge the many, many people. I won't try to name anyone because there were too many people who had a hand at play in that in some way, but was just really grateful for the number of businesses that supported that. And if I'm understanding correctly, all of the juniors and seniors attended that. Is that correct, Mr. Leach? Yes, so every junior and senior was able to interact with community business owners and leaders, and I think that's just such a great opportunity for our students, and so I'm grateful for all who contributed to that.
One of the things I've been privileged to attend a couple of times, not the entire time, but is our reading curriculum adoption committee that meets to choose our curriculum in the elementary school for reading. And I think the thing that has stood out to me even in just our meeting last night was I just am so thankful for how engaged our teachers are for making selections just on something that feels so pivotal to education, engaged, aware, knowledgeable of what they're looking for. As a parent, I just thought our kids are in really great hands when our teachers know what needs to happen starting in kindergarten, moving all the way through 5th grade at this time to just make great readers, great learners. And so that was really encouraging to me. Anybody else?
Yeah, I was able to interact. I don't know if anybody knew this. We had an election last week in the country, and I had the privilege of being a precinct worker in Kempton, and as part of the training, we had a lot of our high school kids that were And Mr. Morgan, I wanted to give him a shout out. He's done this historically. Got to interact with some of our high school students who handled themselves in a very busy environment, very professionally, did a great job, a civic duty. So thank you, Mr. Leach, for, letting the kids out of school that day. I was asked by several of them why this wasn't a school holiday, so we can take that up at a different board meeting. But just a great experience, and a lot of our kids participating in the election and helping the community. So wanted to point that out. It was really good. And then Mr. Morgan's been an advocate of that for many, many years. So.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, next on our agenda are comments from the community, and we did not have anyone sign up, so we'll move into approving our consent agenda items. Tonight, we will have the approval of the agenda and the approval of minutes from the work session on October 3rd, a special session also on October 3rd, a work session, regular session from October 8th, and a special session on November 6th, 2024. We'll approve claims, payroll claims from October 11th and October 25th, and November 8th, and accounts payable claims from November of 2024. Tonight, we will approve the personnel report, approval of field trips, which we did not have any, and then also we will approve to accept donations from FFA, donation to the National FFA organization, which just thank you so much for that donation. At this time, I need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items.
I move to approve the consent agenda items.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes. At this time, I'll read the personnel report for November 12th. We did not have any certified staff changes. For classified staff, we had the resignation of Shannon Trent, who is a cafeteria employee at the middle school, and then a recommendation for Cheryl Gunn as a cafeteria employee at the high school, and a recommendation for John Bechtel as a special education and kindergarten or paraeducator at the elementary. As far as ECA staff, our recommendations is Glenn Castor for the robotics co-sponsor for the middle school, Nathan Geiger is the assistant football coach at the middle school, and then Lacey Bittner, Lily Tragesser, Lily Boyer, Jared Cheek, Izzy Walker, and Balin Knox as lifeguards at the high school. And then for resignations, we have Alex Red. He resigned as the assistant swim coach at the high school, and Jessica Lyday resigned as the National Junior Honor Society co-sponsor at the middle school. At this time in our agenda, we will review the superintendent's report and begin with some Blue Future Awards.
I'm going to quickly just do a presentation. I did want to clarify with the board that one of the reasons why we have so many of those lifeguard positions is it's a new regulation from the Indiana Health Department. Last year, there was that tragedy down in Whiteland. So regulations are now saying that we have to have 2 lifeguards in the pool. One is obviously the coach or instructor, but there also has to be one that is watching the whole environment. So we've been able to recruit some of our kids to be able to help during the school day for elementary. So we will pay them for that time. But then anytime that we have a practice after school, we also have to pay someone. So that's why we had so many of those come up for approval. And that was something that we found out about the beginning of October. So once again, one of those things that's not really planned, but it's probably a good idea, and we want to make sure everybody's safe. So, okay. I will go on with my report here. I would like to congratulate the Tipton Elementary School. They were ranked as one of the best elementary schools in Indiana and ranked in the top 16% of all schools in Indiana. So congratulations to them. That just came out hot off the presses yesterday. Yep.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And our middle school was in the top 20%. Not yet considered one of the best. They have to get up there to about that 14-15%.
So
But we are still proud of your progress, and that is one of our schools that just continues to improve. And so I wanted to recognize the middle school for doing a great job and having that national and state recognition. I talked to you all in some of our correspondence about public entity insurance provider. We've had this conversation. We've been approached by Walker Hughes, which of course has an office here in Tipton, about giving us a quote for our public entity insurance. And so our current vendor is USI. They are currently working up a proposal, and we would need to make a decision in February in order to have our April renewal. So what we will probably ask for a proposal from USI as well as a proposal from Walker Hughes, and just kind of decide where we want to go with that. But I will say that Walker Hughes has a much they do have a lot more volume as far as school corporations who they are the agent for. So I think it might behoove us to take a look and see what they can offer us. Okay, phase 2 of the high school is nearing the end. It's been a lot of fun, and it's been great to look forward to coming to school just to kind of see what's new and what's been, ready to go in the building project. But I am going to say I'm not going to miss the building project. So anyway, to kind of let you know the different areas, this is now the hallway to the pool. And so we wanted to make sure that, especially for our young kids and parents who are bringing their kids in for swim lessons, that we had access to the pool, that you didn't have to go through the locker room necessarily. So we have, that is that corridor. For some reason, I put in, this is the athletic office. This is a little out of place. That is the athletic office that was previously held by Alec. It'll still be his office, but it's got some new paint on it and carpeting. This is this is media center storage. I feel very happy about the amount of storage that our media center is going to have. And anytime you guys want to come and take a look at it, I'll be glad to give a tour. This is the media center. We still have some work that needs to be completed. Basically, the bookshelves, we are reusing the bookshelves from our current media center. So they are being disassembled and brought down. I want to thank our librarians at the high school and National Honor Society for all of their help as we've been transporting books and loading books on carts and different things like that in order to make the move down to the new media center. This is the new concession stand. Again, an area that we feel like is dedicated to concessions for our high school activities, really any activities that are happening in the Inferno. We do have live stream now for most of our indoor athletic events and also outdoor. So we're wanting to be able to live stream what's going on inside of the Inferno for those people who are working in those concession stands. So we feel like that this is a very nice upgrade to what we've currently had, which is nothing really. And so we're very excited about it. We have, again, a couple of things that need to be, completed, but we're pretty darn close. So these are all the concessions. So this is the outside. This is the inside. Both pictures there. And then this is the new entrance to the media center and concession stand. The walls came down today, and I loved it because happened to be down there taking these pictures, and the kids are like, "Oh man, the walls are down. That looks really cool." So it was kind of fun to hear. So anyway, I'm not sure they said it exactly like that, but anyway. This is inside the locker room. Again, I apologize. They're kind of misordered. This is for the athletic locker room for the swim. We again reuse these lockers. They need to be cleaned up a little bit, but they've been electrostatically painted, and they're going to look great. Also, we have these the new bathroom facilities. This is the varsity swim for both, very similar for both boys and girls. So each of them have the Blue Devil. And so these lockers are actually made of a composite material that will not deteriorate over time. So we're excited with all those crazy chemicals going on in that area. We want to make sure that we have something that's going to last a while. Finally, I want to thank Nita Everling. She has moved all of these trophies and pictures and everything down to the Hall of Fame. And if you have a chance to go through there, we certainly are very proud of that. We've had a little bit of a delay on the wall coverings, basically because we're dealing with a vendor that doesn't deal with schools very well. I think they're going to do a great job, but they don't understand that we can't pay them until we get their product. Just the State Board of Accounts frowns upon that. So hopefully we've got that resolved today, and we'll be getting those wall coverings. And then at that point, the Hall of Fame should be ready to roll. Okay. TMS project is going to give you a little bit of an update on that. We were approximately 160,000 under budget with the middle school program. So with that 160, we were able to do some painting. We were able to do some flooring replacement in the PE swim locker room area. That's actually the hallway that is outside there. It needed to be replaced, and with the movement as far as with construction and everything, that hallway just kind of deteriorated. We're also going to be able to update the ag lab in the art room, and then we were able to replace the ceiling in the My Closet space. That was one of the last ceilings that had not been replaced with the renovation that was done in the late teens. And so we were able to get in there and get those ceiling tiles replaced in that space.
I do want to say, sorry to interrupt you, but it's amazing what paint can do.
I
The
know.
middle school gym just looks amazing.
I'm really
So
pleased
good.
with it.
Looks good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that I'm really proud of how we've been able to get most of what we wanted to get done. And so I don't have numbers yet as far as what is left from the high school phase 2. But we do feel confident that we'll be able to carpet and paint classrooms. And we've also purchased furniture for those high school classrooms. So everybody would be able to enjoy a nice, fresh space. December board meeting, just kind of things coming up. Policy Analytics will be here. They're going to do a comprehensive review of our school finance. And then I will be recommending a resolution to allow us to use some operating balance and debt service to lower our rate to 39 cents in debt service. So we'll talk a little bit more about that throughout this next few weeks. And also December, we would like to have the board nominate for Blue Future Awards. I love it when you guys do that. And I think that's always great. You always notice things that we don't always notice. So again, I always look forward to that. Potential resolutions for additional appropriations. I believe that Brooke shared that we were kind of at the top of our appropriations. We're probably not in the danger zone, but just getting a little close. So that might be a possibility, but we'll know a little bit more when we get to December. And again, just a little bit of a discussion on the 25-26 school calendar. And I'll explain a little bit more about that as we're doing our weekly updates. One of the great things about the way the state has organized the attendance data, we have a lot of real-time data on attendance, and particularly attendance when we only have like 2-day weeks. And so I want to get some data from Thanksgiving, and then we'll kind of look at that to make some potential recommendations. So January board, of course, it's reorganization, Board of Finance meeting, and then summary of the fund transfers. We always have fund transfers in December just to make sure everything is doing balanced and there are no negative balances anywhere. We will do the financial report that's required by DUAB. You'll have to do the conflict of interest statement and then the swearing in of newly elected board member. And that's it. So let's do Blue Future Awards. Mr. Leach,
Yes.
up and ready to roll.
It's been a good month at Tiffin High School.
Yes,
I
it
have
has.
quite a few Blue Future Awards. Before I do all that, though, I do want to recognize the group that's sitting here, students. That's part of our teacher, our principals and teaching class, which is new to the high school this year. It kind of funnels into our Tomorrow's Teacher program, which is pretty awesome because we're hoping that these kids find a love for education, and might make it back to Tiffin High School, elementary, or middle school. So we can solve the teacher shortage at home, grow our own. So I just want to recognize them and Mr. Hartley for bringing them in and Mrs. Sutter. So,
I think the deal works.
okay, now I gotta try. Can I use this? space
Yeah,
here?
absolutely.
I
You
need
need to hold something?
Slightly. I need Jackson Muncie to come to the front, please. Hey, Jackson. Jackson's had a great, you can see him, Bruce, Jackson's had a good fall sports season his senior year. He runs cross country for the Blue Devils. He made it through sectionals with a time of that's right. 16:49.8 to run a 5K.
Yeah, that's a lot faster than I could.
So made it out of sectionals, and it's a pretty tough sectional. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. I was able to go over and watch him do that, and it was great to watch him kind of see him grow and go throughout the years at the high school. And then he went to regionals and finished 81st overall with a 17:03. So not exactly how you probably wanted it to go at regionals, but still to make it is a big deal. And then just this past week, we got to host IUK, because Jackson signed to go to IUK next school year. So I'm going to recognize Jackson. All right, thank you. Get Isaac and Peyton to come on down.
Price is right. I know it.
Work on that.
I was just gonna say that tall.
Yeah.
Makes it easy to reach for. All right, so Isaac and Peyton both are on the tennis team for the Blue Devils, and they also had a good fall sports season. Where at sectionals, we went up against Alexandria in the team sectional. The team didn't make it out, but these guys were able to defeat Alexandria, which then put them into the individual area of tennis. They go on to beat Winchester to be sectional champs, which then allowed them to advance to regionals, which is no easy feat. I have a hard enough time with tennis, like keeping track of actually who gets points, who's winning, and all that. You guys are really good at the sport. So I wanted to recognize them, and I also wanted to do a quick plug for the team. They also were all recognized for academic all-state this week as well. So coaches, students, all doing what we want them in terms of student athletes. So congratulations. And I need the entire Vex Robotics team to come to the front.
Yes.
Coming to the front, we have Ella Crawford, Kaya Dr. Ramirez, Kira Jackson, Ella Overdorf, Riley Shelley, Olivia Landers, Caroline Pittman, Ming Chao Vu, and coached by Mr. Vittorio. As soon as the email was sent from Dr. Blaze as a reminder for Blue Future, I thought of this group because they're working every day in advisory to build a robot. If you don't know anything about Vex Robotics, every year they get a new task. We end up buying some new robot parts, and then they have to work and program these things to go and do a task faster and better than other people at competitions. So last week, or 2 weeks ago at Heritage Christian, we had one group finished 11th place out of 46 teams, and the other had a couple issues with maybe the size of the robot, and they finished 35th, but I think they're primed for a bounce back at the next competition. So I wanted to recognize this group just for the amount of work that they're putting in. Thank Mr. Vittorio for growing this. I think it's also really great that we have, women in STEM and we're doing all female teams here and they're kind of rocking it. So I look forward to, nobody's a senior either. So we've got some growth there, some potential. So they do perform, or not perform, that's not the right way to say it. We have a team going again November 16th for a state qualifier at Arsenal Tech, and then all of them will go February 1st for a state qualifier at Zionsville. So just wanted to recognize Mr. Vittorio and the entire Vex Robotics team.
Good work, guys.
Okay, last one, I promise. I need Mrs. Hartley and Mrs. Nichols to come to the front. I wanted to take one last Pride Future Award here just to recognize these two. We had FFA National Convention here in the last month, and within that, they had to organize over 100 people. That's students and then supporters and parents and all that kind of stuff. And they always approach those kind of things with such energy and enthusiasm. I think it's a great experience for our kids. They get to go check out exhibits and just kind of to be around. I've been down there once before, and the swarm of Tipton kids is kind of a cool thing to see. And the work that they're doing just year in and year out for kids to give them whatever experiences. Like, I don't know how many, I only live like a half mile from here now. So the number of times that I'm just around school and they're coming in on a Saturday because of a competition or late in the evenings and things like that, it's great that you guys go above and beyond and do that. And I think our program is representative of that. So I wanted to thank you for all the extra time and effort for growing that program. And I'm done. Although I could have said something about Mr. Fester and the career fair.
I took your thunder. Sorry, Mr. Lee.
The theme apparently of the Middle School Blue Future Awards is I tell the person they're going to get it and then they get sick. That happened last month, it happened this month, and Miss Neely is actually feeling a little something in her throat this evening, so apparently Divas Blue Future is the kiss of death. So I apologize. I'm still going to present it though, and as you guys can see, Christina is here to represent Tucker, who is the 7th grade student I'm going to be chatting about. I don't know if you guys, when you were in middle school, wrote a play, but Tucker did, okay? And I think it's a pretty cool thing that he did. So I kind of want to give a little bit of background about that and share what was going on there. And I've got kind of a twofer because not only will I be honoring Tucker, but also the teacher who gave him that opportunity that he took it and ran with it. So Tucker wrote a play, okay? And he did this as part of his 7th grade English honors class. And this is something that Mrs. Neely has been doing for a couple years now, I believe. Where there's this young playwrights in process program that then she has her honor students write a play and they submit it, and it turns out that Tucker wrote apparently a really good one, okay? And that play that he wrote, if I'm not mistaken, was the most patriotic holiday ever. I asked him to explain it to me, and he was just like, it's basically just two guys talking a bunch, and I was like, sounds like a great play, Tucker. But he was excited about it. So he was selected to attend a one-day seminar, from what I understand, where he got some feedback on kind of what that was looking like. And all of that just kind of happened based on him doing an assignment in his English class, which I thought was really cool. My father was a big fan of the phrase, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And so this is one of those moments where Tucker was preparing himself well and given an opportunity. And look what he could do. So big round of applause for Tucker. On behalf of your son, will you come and accept the award? So thank you for that. Okay. Seriously, let him know how proud you are. Okay.
I'll send the video.
Okay. So who provided that opportunity? That's Ms. Nicole Neely here, obviously. Okay. Ms. Nicole Neely has been teaching at Tipton Middle School for 13 years. She has been a teacher for 15 years. One of my favorite things about Nicole is that when you talk about what she does at TMS, you kind of could go on for a long time. She's got a lot of different things that she does. These include, I had to write them all down so I wouldn't lose any of them. She is our 7th grade team lead. So she leads the 7th grade team of teachers, supporting them every day, addressing the needs of those students, and coordinating, of course, grade-wide events and activities. She is the English PLC leader. So she leads that on Mondays and Wednesdays, supporting, of course, our TMS English program and building a vertically aligned, high-quality English program that grows students and expects excellence of our kiddos. Last year, she took on the NJHS sponsor role, which is something that she is continuing to grow this year, supporting, of course, high-achieving students' growth growth in the areas of scholarship, service, leadership, and character. I think I got those 4 right. And finally, something that she took on, I believe, last year as well for the first time, she's the yoga club sponsor, supporting students' growth, I guess, in flexibility. I don't know. Okay. And of course, she not only supports our students in doing that, but she supports staff on Thursdays when she hosts free yoga classes for our staff. And of course, all of that is just on top of the general thing, the fundamental component of all this. She's a teacher every single day, and comes to school every day, giving her best to students. Providing that meaningful learning experience that obviously allowed Tucker to do something really, really cool. So, often I know that we give these blue future words because something has been won or some big thing has happened, and obviously that's wonderful. That's great. We should. But I think that everything I just kind of shared about Ms. Neely, something that I wanted to make sure that I honor, she shows up every single day. She gives her best. She has given her best to our community for 13 years and she continues to do so. And oftentimes when we expect something and give her best, that adds up. I want to make sure that we all honor her for that. So thank you, Ms. Neely. All right, good evening. The elementary this month would like to recognize 2 individuals. The first one is our music teacher, Miss Erin Strayer. Erin has been with us since last school year, so a little bit over one year, and she has made a tremendous impact on the elementary and our music program. Not only our music program, but other programs within TEF. Erin is our music teacher. She's our choir director. She is our student academic bowl coach for both spelling and math bowls. And she just brings a level of enthusiasm to our school that is that you can feel every single day. Our kids love going to music. If you didn't get a chance to check out the spring music program last year, the elementary spring music program, it was phenomenal. It was something that I was getting comments from parents like, hey, like, it was great for the kids, but as adults, we enjoyed it too. It was really playable to us. And so some of the things, as I was looking at the Tipton Way, I could go down the Tipton Way and go to every pillar and say something about Erin. But one of the pillars, present, she is present in her classroom and in our school every single day. She's engaged with our kids. She's out moving around. If you go into her classroom, be ready because you're going to end up moving too. So like she loves getting the kids moving. One of the first things she said to me whenever we hired her is we walked into her classroom and she goes, hey, can we get these tables and chairs out of here? And I'm like, are you sure? And she's like, absolutely. And so we found a place to store them and she does a fantastic job. Also, she gives her best every day. She goes above and beyond and she has that growth mindset. Whenever she's always looking for ways to improve, not only her practice, but how she can impact the school as a whole. And so, I'd like to bring up Erin Strayer.
The other person I would like to recognize is Jim Voss. we have a core belief that it takes everyone to make Tipton Elementary a success. Jim is someone who greets every student with a positive attitude. He's the first person from our school to greet a lot of our students. And he is always very positive with them. He always makes, if they need something or talks to them, it is great. He always goes above and beyond. If we need something, we've had a couple of situations where we've needed him to run an extra route or do an extra thing, and he's always the first one to volunteer. And we truly, truly appreciate him and always putting kids first. So, Jim. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay. At this time, if you received a Blue Devil or Blue Future Award, you are welcome to leave. You do not need to stay for the rest of our meeting. At this time, then, I would like to invite Dr. Heckman to come forward. We're going to have a little bit of a presentation on survey.
Should have said that. No one would have wanted to leave.
I'm sorry, I should have said that first. Sorry. Next time.
Thank you. So I think in an admin meeting, Dr. Glaze kind of mentioned we were going to be putting together a survey for community involvement, and I had just finished my dissertation about the exact same thing. So I thought I could assist with that. And so we kind of started working on it and making sure we were going to put together a mixed method, just survey that would be very thorough and would get us the information that we needed. So I believe everyone has a folder and the kind of proposal for what it would look like there. And so I will kind of go through, and at any point, if you guys have questions, feel free to ask. But kind of looking at it there is building off kind of my dissertation was the belief that, there's quite a bit of research out there that says that school, family, community partnership leads to better student success. And I don't think anyone would argue that. Joyce Epstein is one of the main scholars in the world of partnerships and community. And so it's a well-researched, comprehensive framework that I implemented into the dissertation. I thought would very easily kind of transition into this survey. So you'll see that name pop up as I talk about it, and but just know that that's just a research-based framework that we can use in the survey. The purpose of the survey would be collecting feedback, and you're looking at improving our school corporations' communication, collaboration, engagement. These data-driven decisions will guide decisions that align with our strategic goals that we set. The structure of it is we use those 6 categories from Joyce Epstein, which is parenting, communicating, volunteering, learning at home, collaborating with the community, and decision-making. The demographic questions you'll see in there will help us understand different groups, experiences for the tailored responses. And the open-ended questions, which would be optional, would allow deeper insights beyond the fixed choice answers. When you look at the scoring system, it would use a Likert scale that will give us the clear quantitative data. We would use Qualytics and SPSS, which are 2 things I have from being a researcher at the University of Dayton, which are very advanced tools in statistical data. This would allow us to do a threshold and gap analysis with pinpoint areas of needs and attention and comparing scores to our goals. And by doing this, we could also use demographic segmentation, which would capture specific needs across various community groups. With enough of that open-ended, text, we could also code that and look for trends as well with a program called MaxQDA. So the confidentiality and data security, it would be anonymous, and aggregated reporting could be many groups coming in at once. The timeline that we worked on would be, we are talking about it tonight, and we were planning on sending it out on November 15th. This would go to parents and guardians would have a survey. Our students, 4th grade through 12th grade would have a survey. and then our staff would have a survey, all asking the same questions, obviously tailored a little differently to their demographics. This would be available electronically and in paper. It can also be easily translated to Spanish. And the findings will highlight strengths and areas for improvement. So the future implications, the surveys will provide meaningful changes. It will be a spring follow-up survey, and that will be on the targeted areas that we got from this fall survey. And we decided that an annual survey would be, it'd be allowing us for year after year comparison by doing the same survey again every November for improvement. But it is, I do believe that the feedback that we will get will be essential kind of for the partnerships that we develop and the framework for analysis. Epstein's model advanced tools will ensure that there's meaningful kind of feedback we're gaining from it. And I believe I provided each survey there for you. The program that it's sent out is very, it's scored automatically, and it is very easily accessed on phone or web. And I also included some frequently asked questions that you might have in that packet as well.
I think it was asked in the work session, and I see it here, but it's not mandatory
No.
for students or parents or staff.
No, it wouldn't be mandatory. I do know when I did my research at the elementary school, however many years ago, I worked on it for 3 years, can't remember what year, but I got a great amount of surveys back. And also with the staff, we did it during a staff meeting. I don't know if that's the answer to do it now, but the staff was willing to participate too. And I think it's very important to get those 3 data points of students, staff, and parents.
And how do you, I guess as a parent, and I have a 5th grader, just some of these questions, I kind of wonder how adequate the information you would gather from this, asking, a 4th, 5th, even 6th grader. Some of these questions, I feel like they could be confused or not, or just have no idea how to answer them. So do you think you would get data that's not accurate based on them just not understanding the question?
Yeah, I think that we would, for the 4th and 5th graders, we did talk about possibly, making sure and going through those kind of step by step with a teacher to be able to explain. That could be during classroom time. We also spoke in the next, when we would have that week, to make sure that the students are taking the classroom so that there would be any questions that need to be explained. We did try to make the language in the survey to be that a 4th grader or a 12th grader could understand.
Okay.
And to make sure, with Qualytics, it will do some checking on it and to make sure that that language is applicable to every area. So I think with the help of, teachers and understanding what a Likert scale and the open texted, which will allow diving into that more, I think it would be okay. We did not think 3rd grade and under was appropriate though.
Okay. And then, since it's not mandatory, will you be sending something home for parents to opt out if they would not want their students to participate?
Yeah, so what we do is we'd send a link. It would have it would explain exactly what it is.
Okay.
It would have a link to click on. There would be, the option of opting out would be not clicking it. And by, clicking it, you would be opting in and, approving to join the research.
Who's doing that? That's the parent that's choosing that?
Yes, when we would send an email to the
Oh,
parents,
okay.
yes. But we would send it by, the staff would get the link too. And
Okay.
students.
And so after you have the results, what's the ultimate goal?
So I think the ultimate goal would be to look at the kind of the analysis gaps and see what areas we are lacking, what areas need improvement. One thing that I did with my dissertation was I only did staff and parents, but it was gauging what parents saw as the most effective areas of parental involvement and comparing that to what teachers saw as the most effective areas of parental involvement. And there were differing areas. And it really shined light on what we can do to improve that. Really shine light to gain perspective of how parents see things and how teachers see things. Past 5 years, that's changed quite a bit with the events of COVID and the events of, with the advancements of technology. Some of that stuff's really changed with what our expectations are of one another. So I think that's very much a vital part there. I forget what was the original question. Sort of rambling.
Just what the goal was?
Yep. So I think the goal would be though to use those gap analysis as improvements and what we can do. I do know I've sat, on an AI committee and we talked about what the benefits of something like this could help with that. I know when we were doing our strategic goals, the benefits of a survey could help, with that. But I think that it'll serve quite a bit the different areas to provide us on what changes we need to make and what areas we need to focus on.
And I would say too that, I think the hardest thing for us is we think we're communicating, but we don't really know. And this will hopefully help us to know if what we're trying to get out there is really getting out there. That's a hard one, but I'm hoping that this survey will help us to see, how we can do that better, and then how we can just be a better school corporation in general.
And I think we're gonna get just a wealth of information from it. And, like I said, be able to really look at areas we need to improve, areas we need to build on.
We plan to do this annually then to compare year over year?
Yeah, and the easy thing will be that it'll be easily replicated year after year. The spring survey, though, we thought it would be too early to, when we see what areas need improvement, we need to put some things in place to improve them. And so that spring survey would be kind of focusing in on some of those gaps that we found and seeing what other data we can pull from that. And that might be different between, what we find with different areas, because that's where the demographics will come into play, to look at the different groups and see maybe where we're struggling in some areas.
It was asked in the work session, and Laura had done more research. I just had a question about does it go beyond the surveys? I think she had researched that we have parenting classes or in-home visits, or were we talking about anything like that?
Right now, I think the first step would be the survey, to focus on kind of what would be needed like that, if that would become an area of need. And that's what's great about the kind of 6 categories with Epstein's, is it volunteering, learning at home, and all these, it'll zero in on kind of what area we need to improve. And there's already things that are in place to kind of show where we need to go after that. So I think that this would be kind of that first step to see where we need to head.
As far as the protocol within the survey, there's not anything about having to do home visits or doing parenting classes or anything.
That's not our goal.
of those. That is not our goal.
And it'll be completely clear when they read. I mean, ethically, you have to let them know that it is anonymous, and we'll make sure that we do that too.
That'd be nice to see if parents don't feel like they're able to help their kids at home, and maybe we could give more resources
Exactly.
than send out more resources.
And really, that's what it's about.
Mhm.
I mean, and those questions are really framed in that way. How can we help? Because, I mean, again, we can put that information out there, but we don't know if it's getting into their heads or other ways that we can help.
One of the things I spoke about during my interview was that the community doesn't need silos, and the hospital does a survey every 2 years to identify the needs of the community. And some of those needs might be able to be addressed or looked at through the hospital. Specifically, I'll say the need for education related to diabetes, and we have a high instant of it in this community. And does that tie back to what we're doing here in offering meals? And there's about 5 key identifiers that the hospital addresses and puts forward money and resources to, that something might overlap. And again, we don't need to recreate the wheel.
Absolutely. That's a great point.
And I think on page 3, when you look at kind of those 6 categories there, you can see how comprehensive it is and kind of what all we'll be looking at. Because it is parenting, I think the parenting classes and things you mentioned that we will be able to kind of gain some information on, but it's also that decision-making within the school. Does the community feel like they have a part in that? And then also collaborating with the community. Do we feel that as the Tifton Community School Corporation, we feel that there is that collaborative community here and that we're not silos? So we'll be able to gain, like I said, quite a bit of information from these 6 categories.
We'll be glad to share that out with the hospital, because I think that's what our results are. I think that would be beneficial for all of us to have that conversation.
Any other questions?
And you guys are welcome to take a look through the questions. If there's any that you would have any concerns about or anything like that, just let us know. And that's one of the reasons why we gave you paper copies, so you'd be able to access them all easily.
The only question I had, I was just thinking of this, is there a recommended time to, is this the time to do it, like the end of first semester, or do they recommend end of the year, like?
I don't know if there's a recommended time. I think that this is a good time. I don't think it's great to do it at the very beginning of the year.
Right.
I don't think it's great to do it at the very end of the year, because I think that the climate of a building, everyone's about to get out for summer break, and they might be, so I do think it is a good time, and I think that we've been here enough to kind of notice some of the trends and things like that, and get accurate answers, and I do.
I was saying the same thing, don't do it at the start, do it at the end, I thought maybe they recommended
Yeah.
a time, but it seems like a good time. I
It
just
is,
wondered-
and before getting into kind of the, hustle of December,
Holidays and-
I think it's a great time.
Well, and we were hoping to, with this going into Thanksgiving break, that we might really, people might have a little bit of extra time to do it. So we'll send out reminders during that time to complete the surveys.
I have one clarifying question. I'm looking at 4th through 12th grade, and I thought I heard you say the parents will be sent a link. If they don't want to participate, they can opt out. Are we sending that same link to a 4th grade student?
We would send the link for them to log in through a device.
Now, if their parents did not want them to participate in the survey, what is the check and balance there, that if I, as a parent, and I'm not saying this, this is a what if. I don't want my student to answer if I'm a good dad or not, as far as homework is concerned. My student, my fourth grader sees an opportunity to drag dad through the mud, clicks on the link, and I did not want that to happen. Do we have checks and balances there?
Yeah, I think when Dr. Glaze and I talked about it, we were going to send the information out to parents first and to staff first. And it's not so much of an opting out. You opt in by clicking on the link to take it. And by submitting it, you kind of opt into it. So it's a little different with the adults and the staff. I think what we could do with that is to send that next week, your student will be taking at this time, and we could offer an opt-out for that too.
Yeah, and that, we basically would put that into a Google Doc. And so, and we would do some pull downs where child's teacher, we can really drill it down, so we would be able to, to know who it is. And we've done that with some other things, right now we're doing, body, what is that?
Body
Yep.
safety.
Body
Yep.
safety, and that's an opt-out as well. So that's something that we're, that we do.
And I guess that's where I was going, because Mr. Leach's email was like, you click here if you want to opt out, right? If I don't want my student to participate, I click there.
Yeah.
4th grader would probably click on anything
Yeah.
that ended up in their inbox. And so if we can adjust that to the parent's email that says, I don't want my 4th through 12th grader taking this, and then somehow do that, I think there's wisdom in giving that option to the parent.
Yep.
So that,
And we'll also put that out too on social media.
Yep.
And that, to try to get it out of it, we'll send it out through Bright Arrow,
Yeah.
which is our system to communicate with parents. And then we'll also send that out through social media if they want to opt their child.
and I don't want to be misconstrued. I'm 1,000% in support of
Yep.
what we're doing.
Yep.
I want to make sure that, as our parents are given the option to opt their kids out. So that's the concern, so.
Would it be better if the parent has to answer yes or no? So if you have a parent that didn't see it or they saw it and then forgot, and then their student took it and then they were upset, and I understand we gave them
What
ample
the
time.
challenge would be that
Yeah,
for all the parents who don't look at their email, then
I was just thinking if you don't answer it, then your child's not taking it.
And we'll put that, we can do a yes or no. That's not a big deal as far as within like a Google form. That would be easy.
That's it.
Yeah, so that's not a problem at all. And we will probably just need to sit down and figure out exactly all the information we would need to make sure that we don't miss something.
And when you're able to guarantee kind of the trustworthiness and the you can, I think we can allow that opt-out. Now, if we were taking their names and everything, then that's a whole different story, and you would need some pretty serious, scientists to do that. But there is some room that we still want the parents, obviously, to have that information, but allow for that opt-out, just like we would with body safety or any of the programs we do.
This is excellent. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah,
right,
thank
thank
you
you.
for all your work on
Thank
it and for presenting tonight. Okay, next we have our spotlight on schools. Mr. Jaworski is going to share some findings with us.
May I? Of course. Eric, do you have your? I sent Eric an acronym key.
You ruined my afternoon. Okay.
I'm sorry. Special ed loves its acronyms.
I do want to thank everybody for sticking with us.
Okay, I think you have it.
Oh no, see, it said it was in use. Try it again.
Oh, shoot.
Oh no, you did it.
Because I'm streaming my ball game.
Let it go.
I know.
So it's an
Why is it
Yep,
doing that?
click on that guy to the left.
There?
Nope, nope, up,
There?
left. Just on the blue button.
Oh, there. Okay,
There
thank
you
you.
go.
I remember seeing that.
Technology. Yeah.
How's this is going? Like I said, I want to thank everybody for sticking with us. I know the last one to go is usually the one that people are like, all right, hurry up, let's get it done. But I do want to make sure I take the time on this one because again, it's something that took a fairly decent amount of time, 2 full days actually, for the people involved, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But again, this is we conducted a special education and multilingual learning program audit. Again, basically, these are 2 programs, 2 pretty significant programs in our schools for 2 what we consider vulnerable populations. Obviously, special ed is a growing population. ML is also a very large, well, not large, but is a quickly growing population as well. And so we felt like this is a good time as any to kind of get a temperature check and see where are we at and how can we improve. So again, that kind of led me to our purpose of conducting this, which is our why. So we wanted to create, we wanted to have a clear area of, or there was a clear area of need based on our student data. So for, you have here the results of the most recent iLearn for special ed and ML students. You can see passing rates for math and for English. Just for reference, our general education populations passed math at a rate of 48.5% compared to 17.2%, and our general education students passed ELA at a rate of 43.5% compared to 14% for special education students. For our ML students, similar story. Native English speakers passed at a rate of 44.7% math, just 11% in math for ML students, and then native English speakers in English passed at a rate of 39.8%. Again, all those are at least triple the results of our 2 vulnerable populations here, special ed and ML. So again, those scores represent our greatest disparity in results for those populations. Our ML population, like I mentioned, is growing. It's actually doubled in the last 5 years, and our special education population has more than doubled in around 10 to 15 years. So again, these are 2 growing populations, and we are not satisfied with the results that those students are seeing, especially compared to their general education and native English speaker groups. So again, if you had a conversation with Mr. Underwood earlier, if you had a chance to read through the synopses that I shared with you, I quickly found out that the number of acronyms used in these 2 programs is enough to make anybody's head spin. So we wanted to address, obviously, supporting families with understanding those services among a variety of other pressing issues that we'll talk about here presently. So, just real quickly about the process, I reached out to a former colleague at the IDOE who now works at for the Indiana IEP Resource Center. There's some more acronyms for you, who recommend I collaborate with specialists from the Department of Education to support us in a self-audit process. Again, like I mentioned, it's a 2-day process. We actually did the week of fall break, so it was that Monday and Tuesday. We pulled together a group of stakeholders, teachers, administrators, and parents to review our 2 programs. Mr. Dover, who's our ML teacher, and Mr. Silson, our special education coordinator, and myself, again, we collaborated in collecting all the data necessary to conduct this audit. Kind of the process, like I mentioned, we assembled the team, gathered that data, like I just mentioned. Then we went into, for those 2 days, defining our current state, identifying our needs, setting the goals, developing an action plan, actually working towards what does the implementation of that look like. And then step 8 is something that we'll do throughout the journey, which is evaluate the success of this process. So again, here's our evaluation team. These are the different stakeholders we pulled for this. I do want to take a moment just to recognize the efforts of these individuals. Again, they took time out of their business schedules. For our parents, they took time off of work to come in and support this. So I do want to recognize them. Parents were Laura Saton, Kim Cole, Mindy Connor. She was unable to attend, but again, we still want to acknowledge her interest and support working with us. General education teachers, we had Stacy Angel in 2nd grade, Sherry Leffler in 4th grade, Jessica Lyde in middle school math, and Jessica Nichols for the high school ag team. For special education teachers at the elementary level, we had Nicole Oliver, a new special ed teacher here, Jamie Chevrolet in the middle school, and Dee Jackson from the high school. Our ML teacher, J.R. Dover, who's in attendance tonight, also is here. He joined us. Special education coordinator, Rick Stilson. Building principals, Sarah Wigington and Dr. Cliff Hackman. Our literacy specialist at the elementary, Jessica Higginbotham. High school counselor, Talisha Glassburn, and then the 2 IDEA specialists were Tanya Sheppers and Maggie Hampton. So again, that was the team. It's a pretty large team. We had about 15 plus people attend, so it was a large group, but it was also a meaningful group. They were intentionally identified and selected as, hey, these are the people who can come in and help us put together a good comprehensive audit of our programs. So again, kind of what we discovered throughout this, again, special education and multilingual learners is kind of a dual audit at the same time. These are the 6 different categories that we kind of look through. Just from a special education standpoint, I'm going to hit some highlights. I could spend a lot more time on this, but I won't. I'll just note that about 18% of student population receives special education services, which is fairly consistent with the state. Again, it's up from where we've been recent past. Different disability types go from specific learning disabilities, other health impairments. Those are, again, pretty typical across the state. We do have a smaller percentage of multilingual learners identified for special education than what we see in the state, around 7% compared to the state average of 14%. Academic achievement wise, we already talked a little bit about that, where our special education ML fell compared to our general and native English speakers. Professional learning, again, we have 3 contracted professional development days that offered through the district with a couple additional summer days in there as well, optional for staff. Roughly 6 sessions were dedicated to special education, while just 2 sessions were dedicated to multilingual learner support. So again, we identified that as just where we're currently at, not necessarily good or bad, just that's the state of things. And then kind of last one I want to touch on is just the family engagement piece. Again, we offer, the past year, we've offered 2 major community events as a district. That's the Blue Devil Bash that we hold at the beginning of the year. And then we also, in the spring semester last year, had our spring community event. We are planning to have that one again this coming year. We've got early stages of planning with that. So that's kind of like our opportunities for families to come in and work, in addition to, building specific things like the parent-teacher night that we had just in October. Part of, once we kind of identified our current state, then we started talking about, okay, what are some of the priorities that we want to look at based off of the 6 categories we just kind of looked at. As a team, we voted on our top 3 priority areas for both special education and multilingual. This was special education. Again, the top 3 we identified were academic achievement, professional learning and teacher capacity, and family engagement. Those are 3 areas of focus that we felt confident about. And coincidentally, same with the English learners, academic achievement, professional learning, teacher capacity, and then family engagement. So again, they align actually, curiously enough, with our strategic plan. Maybe not such a coincidence, but yes, that is, again, kind of how we can view this as all ships are moving in the same direction with this, right? It's not like, well, these 2 programs are going to work on different areas. It's, no, we're all working towards the same things at a building level, program level, district level, all ships moving in the same direction there. So we went through and started identifying our needs for special education and academic achievement. We wanted to increase communication with families. The IEP implementation was important. For professional learning, general education, teacher skills for inclusion, just more planning time. That's something that our teachers identified, is that our special education teachers don't really get a lot of time to kind of co-plan with our general education teachers. That's something we feel like we need to start prioritizing a little bit more, so we're going to look into that. Family engagement, it's just kind of a needs survey. Parent handbook, I know that's something our parent group is really was really pressing, and rightfully so. Just how do we make sure our families are prepared for, IEP case conferences or working with our ML coordinator and our general education teachers. Same thing with our ML needs. Again, breakdown of WIDA results for our staff. I mean, letting our staff know exactly what proficiency level our multilingual students are at. And again, provide consistent supports. Again, having Mr. Dover a part of the team, I have yet to find a single person who haven't sung his praises. So he is fantastic. We are so lucky to have him. And again, just that consistent, continual support is huge for our staff and our students. Professional learning, looking into PSYOP training, we can talk a little bit about that in a little bit. Asset-based growth mindset for our staff. Again, understanding that kids come in with these challenges, with these barriers. And I'll say this, I've heard a lot of positive things, especially out of our high school, regarding the amount of, going above and beyond to support some of those students. Again, with several of them coming in with little to no English at all. I hear they're adapting very well from Mr. Henderson at the high school, who meets with them daily. Again, that's something that I can't imagine what it would be like going to a country, going to school and trying to learn high school academics while doing it completely in a foreign language. So again, the amount of support and the amount of effort that is gone in to support those kids is fantastic. And the same thing with special ed, with ML, a needs survey, that parent handbook. How can we better support our special ed and ML students, and have like a one pager, explaining some of those acronyms we talked about. So as far as goal setting, yikes, yeah, this really could have taken like 30 slides, so I try to condense it to one for you guys. So bear with me as I kind of just walk through this a little bit. From a special education perspective, again, all these are aligned to similar to what we're doing with our district strategic plan. SMART goals address these identified high priority areas. TCSE teachers will receive professional development training to implement successful inclusion programs. So again, it's not about sending all of our special ed kids out to a separate classroom and learning different things. Like that's not best practice. Best practice is those kids also deserve grade level content. A lot of them, it's a specific learning disability, so it's not something where they need an entirely separate curriculum. They just need specific supports in different areas, and that's something that, yes, special ed kids need, but also some of our general ed kids would benefit from those supports as well. And so as much as we can get our special ed teachers working with our general education teachers to support all students in the classroom, that's kind of what we're looking for. And again, that's the kind of training we want to make sure we're providing for our staff, and obviously time to do some of that co-planning. Again, wanting to create a comprehensive handbook by the end of the 24-25 school year for families of diverse learners. That includes high ability, multilingual, and special education. Again, just kind of a what's what and what resources and supports are available for your child, and who you need to contact about that. By June 2026, school district will organize and host one intentional family engagement event specifically designed for families of diverse learners. So where you have, like I said, the Blue Devil Bash and the Spring Community Event, we're looking for additional things on top of that. So again, something where we are intentionally supporting those families and offering a way to get them in. I'll admit, in the past, it's not like we haven't done some of these things, but they're not always overly successful. And so part of what we want to find out, and we'll get this through different surveys or different parent committees, is find out what are the things we need to do to attract families to come and participate in these things. Because we can offer it all the live long day, but if we can't get anybody to show up, then we're not able to do our job. So how do we help families get here? Is it a time of day? Is it the time of year? Is it, it's right in the middle of dinner time, just something we need to provide food? What are the ways that we can knock down some of those barriers for those families to come and attend? Obviously, like I mentioned before, the results for our special ed and ML students are nowhere near where we want them to be. And so that's going to be a big part as far as like measuring our success, is looking at those results. If all those other things line up, we provide supports for families, provide supports for teachers, then the results should show right here. Whether that's iLearn or SAT. Again, our current state with iLearn for special education students, 17% for math, 14% for ELA. We're hoping to essentially double those in the next few years. And if we can do that, I guarantee if we're doubling our special ed and ML scores, we're going to be doing really well in our general scores and our native English speaker scores as well. So again, like I said, more supports for all students, I think, is obviously a positive. And then for math and English reading writing for the SAT at the high school, math's at 6% for those students for ML students, 26% in reading and writing. We're looking to, again, roughly double or in the case of math, triple that up to 20%. So again, while those numbers are not like, oh, wow, this is incredible, getting the growth from where we're currently at and kind of correcting course is a huge step in that direction. Again, that's what this initial plan and goal is to accomplish. It's not to say we get to the end of those 3 years, we hit those goals. Okay, let's set it again. Let's do this again. Let's have another audit. Let's see what we need to continue working and improving. So those are the goals that we're setting. Like I said, similar with ML as well. The PSYOP training for teachers, special learner handbook, like I mentioned before, family engagement, that WIDA access proficiency increase. Again, the WIDA, one thing we really wanted to emphasize there is the way WIDA works is students who are identified for ML services, if they're also not new to the country, they take it their first year. If they're new to the country, I think they get 2 years, is that correct? Before they need to, before they need to take the WIDA test, is that correct? They take it, yeah. Okay, so that's, okay, am I thinking of like, IRE, that's right, okay, my mistake. So yeah, with WIDA essentially measures the students' proficiency levels in reading, writing, listening, and speaking. If they get to a score of 5, that means they quote unquote test out of it essentially. They no longer are required to receive those services, no longer required to take testing. Our goal is to get, I believe what we say, 50% of our current student population, so that'd be 20 out of the 40 currently, to a 5 by the end of 26-27 school year, I think is what we talked about. So it's again a matter of setting a plan for those students and helping them progress through that plan to, again, kind of get fluent in English. So again, with our math and reading, again, we're actually with what is this? This is iLearn in math and reading for these students. Currently at 0%. None of our ML students passed iLearn, either math or English, last year. Obviously unacceptable, something that we are looking very intently to increase. Like I said, this is probably our most ambitious goal. We want to jump it up to 35 and 32% in those two areas. Again, that's something that we believe is absolutely possible. Again, with the amount of support and the amount of attention we're going to give this, and those kids deserve our best. So again, something we're going to work towards. Implementation success, again, looking into that PSYOP training, like I said, for targeted for staff, conducting a book study. Actually, Mr. Stilson just got this in today. It's your students, my students, our students, rethinking equitable and inclusive classrooms. He and I are going to do a quick book study, and then we are going to offer this to staff members to participate in as well. Again, kind of building the education of our staff. We'll also survey families to support the district in creating family engagement events, like I mentioned, just trying to find out what is it that will get parents and get families to come and join us for that kind of support. And again, success is going to be measured by the achievement of our goals. Again, increased student achievement, completion of special learner handbook, and the increased participation in those community events. That was 2 days worth of work, kind of crammed there in about 15, 20 minutes. So again, I apologize. I know this is really exciting stuff, but it's also very important stuff. I do not want to belittle what the work that we did. I'm really excited about some of those things we have planned. We have if you really got in the weeds, we have a whole timeline of what things are going to happen. That's starting here in the next month or so. Like I said, it already started with kind of a reading assignment for me. Again, these are two of our most vulnerable populations. They clearly need our support, and we're going to do something about that. So, any questions? I know that was.
I just don't want you to take it personally that all the students left while you were speaking.
Seriously, this is I'll say it's the longer.
They were here a long time. They were here a long time. They were here a long time.
They're getting the full experience, so yes.
Scott, are you finding that still consistent that all these numbers are increasing, right? We're getting more of these students. Our funding continues to decrease, so we're putting a larger strain on our current staff based upon these trends. Is that fair?
Yeah, one thing that we talked about in our audit, control what we can control. If we don't have funds for certain things, different things like staffing or different resources, okay, well, what are the things that we can't control? We actually looked pretty hard at some of the schedules in each of our buildings of like finding that planning time. That was probably the number one ask of our teachers when we were talking about it, is how do we find time? Because again, you have to provide services. They're building the IEPs. Our teachers only have prep time during certain times of the day. They're only contracted from 7:40 to 3:10. So I mean, there's only so much we kind of squeeze out of that schedule. And like I said, that's kind of the challenge is finding time to provide that collaboration. And yeah, I will leave it at that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
My question would be, the students who do come to Tipton who are not English speakers, at what level, like none, very little, like the WIDA goes up to a 5, so they're starting at 1 and we're trying to get them to 5, or?
Yeah, there's a variation to it.
I'm dropping the WIDA because Dr. Glaze told me what that meant. So
I'm impressed.
So there's a very diverse background for our students when they come into the multilingual program. Some are born in the U.S., some are born in Indiana, some are born out of the country. And the ones that are born out of the country obviously are going to have less language skills than ones born here. They break down language skills into 2 sets. One would be a BIX, which is a social language, so they can talk to their friends, at least that's stuff that they still fail in school, but they don't understand the language in school. That's what helps language. And so the program is designed to increase your academic language, not just English necessarily. But so the number of students coming into Tipton, the big number is coming in from out of the country right now. And if you look at the trends and data, our first grade kindergarten group, just take 2 grades, that's our largest group. There's 9 students in that 2 grade group right there, right? Most of the grade levels, we have representation in every single grade level. Some grades only have 1, third grade is only 1 student. But, there's really probably no more than 3 in most of the other grade levels. But those younger grade levels, you kind of feel the tide coming in.
But I would assume even if they are born in Indiana, there may not be any English spoken at home, right? So there's still no, then Scott and I talked about, right. And you trying to communicate, or teachers trying to communicate with the parents and, yeah.
But we're lucky, like in the middle school, if Mr. Ayers can communicate with parents quite clearly and easily. And it's not all 100% Spanish. We have a couple of students, a couple Tagalog.
Wow.
So, anyways, what we're trying to do is, the goal is to get them out of the demo program within 5 years. That's what this program is set up. So if they come in as a kindergartner, we're expecting them to exit the program before they get it.
I will make a note, it's small, but we received the digital learning grant the last couple of years, not this current year. But with some of those funds, we were able to purchase translators. I'm pretty sure we have enough translators at this point, or close to be 1-to-1 or nearly 1-to-1 at that point. So, if students need that kind of resource in the classroom, it's available. Now, again, those tend to work better more in like a small group conversation type thing, not like a whole class lesson. But we have resources like that. Again, each office has a translator as well if they can't get a hold of Mr. Ayers or Mr. Henderson to kind of help with communication that way. So again, a small tool, but it is available for students and families.
Any other questions? Great. Next on our agenda is the financial report. Brooke.
Thank you. For October, we ended the month in the education fund with $1,027,675. Operations fund, $441,548. Debt service, $781,292. And the rainy day fund, $2,003,833. Education fund revenue consisted, of course, of the basic support grant, and the county paid for the lit for August, September, October in the amount of $44,178.24, plus some miscellaneous other reimbursements. Interest income for operations was $27,536.82. Increases that were approved at last month's meeting went into effect on the November 8th payroll, and this Friday, the 15th, will be the retroactive pay. And as Dr. Glaze mentioned, we were tracking appropriation left for the remainder of the year. Education was looking like 77%. We do have an Elwood Haynes vocational bill to pay, so that could impact us a little bit there. And then we'll be transferring, as required by law, the curricular material fund and that technology 910, it's curricular material. That'll have to go into the education fund next month, and then Dawn and I can go through any purchase orders and get those transitioned over to that education fund, so. And then we'll be tracking operations was at 73% at the end of October. And we did receive a notification that we're going to be starting our audit soon. So we've been working our way through our paperwork, and so I'm sure in the coming weeks, we'll be getting ramped up for that and scheduling them to come in, so. Busy times.
Thank you, Brooke.
You're welcome.
Brooke, and this is random and you can get back to me. Our lit payment extrapolated over those 3 months, are you seeing an increase in lit? Is it staying where it's always been?
It's been in the 14,000 range consistently, so yeah,
Okay.
below 14.5 every time.
Okay, so we're not seeing any increase with, okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. This time we'll move into old business, and we do not have any, so new business. Tonight we need to approve the transition to Church Hiddle and Antrim Board policy. Earlier today, CCH&A presented on the process of transitioning from Neola to their policy administrative guidelines and forms. The initial startup fee is $20,000 paid in 2 to 4 installments. As a comparison, Neola startup fee is $100,000 paid over 4 years. Both services have annual fees of $2,100 to $4,500 for Neola and $1,000 to $2,500 for CCH&A, depending on the amount of legislation, regulation, and case law in any given year. Transitioning would ensure we are compliant and up to date with all policies while reducing down the total number of policy items and redundancy. I need a motion to approve this change it for our board policy.
I will enthusiastically motion to approve the transition away from Neola.
Second.
Okay, are there any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes. Next, do we have any other matters to come before the board?
I do, and I've provided a copy of this letter that I'm about to read to everyone on the board, so what I'm about to read is not a surprise to any of my colleagues here. So, addressed to the board president, the intent of this letter is to formally resign my position as a member of the Tipton Community School Board, effective immediately. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve our community and work alongside dedicated and talented board members and administrators. In January of 2021, I took an oath to serve a 4-year term, and that commitment is now fulfilled. With the election cycle concluded and no candidates filing for the open Madison Township seat, I'm submitting this resignation to provide ample time to locate an individual to serve in this role. This timing will allow a new complete board to be in place for the 2025 calendar year, as well as the annual reorganization meeting in January of 2025. I'm confident that this board will continue to make wise decisions in the best interest of our students, staff, and families, and continue shaping our school system into one of the leaders in Central Indiana. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Amber, and thank you for your service to our board, our team, and our school. You will definitely be missed and have been a blessing.
Thank you. It's been a privilege.
Thank you. We will, as a board, begin accepting applications for her seat, and we'll accept those until November 29th. Okay. So anyways.
We don't get to vote on that?
I feel like you just wanted it up.
What?
Over and over.
We actually have to vote on it. So
I did wonder.
then I need a motion and a second to accept the resignation from Amber Rodabaugh.
No.
I will, with a heavy heart, I will motion to accept the resignation of Amber.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Never mind. Okay.
I said aye.
Okay. At this time, then, Moving on, we will, upcoming advisory committees on November 18th is a branding and public relations committee meeting. Upcoming scheduled events, November 27th through the 29th is our Thanksgiving break. December 9th is the middle school and high school Christmas, choir Christmas concert. Our next meeting will be on December 10th. On December 11th is the middle school and high school band Christmas concert at 7 p.m. And December 17th is the YO Family Night concert at 7. December 20th is our last day of the second grading period and the end of semester 1. We will have winter break from December 21st through January 6th. And then the first day back for our third grading period in semester 2 is January 7th of 2025. Lastly, I need a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting.
I move to adjourn the November meeting.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, with that, we thank you so much for joining us and have a good rest of your evening.